Hey there YouTube, welcome back to Far North Racing. Today we have a follow-up video to our review of the Mastercraft vibrating polishing tumbler. If you saw our last review, we tried a couple of different abrasive mediums. We tried this crushed walnut shell kitty litter, and that didn't really work very well. We tried this purpose-built plastic pyramid media, which worked really well for taking rust off of steel parts, but didn't do much at all to aluminum. So we were still looking for a solution for doing some sort of vibratory polishing of aluminum. And we've come across this stuff right here. This is sold at Cabela's, which is a Canadian wildlife outfitter store, a hunting and fishing and camping store. And this is sold in their gun reloading section. Apparently, the gun guys use this medium in a vibratory polisher to polish empty brass cartridge cases that they're going to reload and reshoot. So given that puts a nice polish on brass, we're going to try this medium in here with some aluminum parts and see if we don't have a solution for polishing aluminum. So we're going to throw some parts in here. We're going to try it for an hour or so and see how that works. Then I'm going to let it run overnight and we'll see how that works and we'll see if we've got ourselves a solution for polishing aluminum. So with no further ado, we'll just pour this inside. What we have here is an aluminum plate being used as part of my injector resistor elimination project for the Stealth. This is a bead blasted aluminum plate, and I've put 2 screws in where it's threaded just to protect the threads. So that's going to go inside. I've got a piece of aluminum extrusion that's saw cut on one side and machined on the other, and there's a significant burr on there, right on the edge, and right in here. So we're going to see if that polishes out at all. This is a piece of aluminum that I cut and trued up using a face mill. So the surface is already kind of a mirror polish with just a little bit of tool marks visible. And I got some dye on here. So I'm going to throw that in and see if it takes the tool marks out and takes the dye off. This one I'm trying because it's already next to being polished, and I want to see if the medium will take the tool marks off. And then finally we have Old Faithful, which is a combination of slightly machined and bead blasted. This is a part I'm using to test some welding that I was doing. This has been through the other media test, so it's been dulled up a little bit with the plastic. We're going to put that in there and see if it polishes up. There we go. Put the lid on. And I've learned this thing really needs to be tightened down tight, otherwise the wing nut backs off. That should do it. Let's turn this on and see what happens in an hour. So I've had all these parts in here in the media that's the crushed walnut shell impregnated with jeweler's rouge, and after just shy of 2 hours, here's where we're at. So this was the piece of machined aluminum. This one had a mirror finish on it already because it came off of the face mill. There's still some machining marks in it. And interestingly enough, on this side, there's still traces of the dicum that was on there. So 2 hours in the jeweler's rouge still hasn't been enough to take off all the dicum, which gives you an idea of how aggressive the cutting action is. So this was going to go back in again. This is our bead blasted plate. You can see there's a little bit of a kind of a rusty reddy color from the jeweler's rouge in it. That kind of comes off when you brush it. I think I'm going to have to wash the part to get it all off. These have all been hit with an air blaster just to knock off the worst of the dust, and there's still some of that red in there. It's got a little bit of a sheen on the high spots, but it hasn't touched the actual bead blast finish itself. So not much to say on this for 2 hours. Well, we'll give that a try and see if it gets any better after an overnight run. Similar on this piece, the jeweler's rouge has cleaned up some of the haze that the plastic media used, but again, it's not touching much more than that. Not a whole lot of change on this piece. This piece is not going to go back in again. I'm going to use it as space for something else. This here, the machined extruded aluminum, this is the one that's had the most success. It's shined up the saw cut portion, it's hit the high spots, it's shined up the machine portion, and it's taken the gray haze off of the extrusion and brightened it up a little bit. What it hasn't done is touched the burr on the hole here or the burr on the edge, so it's not a deburring solution. So 2 hours, not enough. I'm going to reload it. I'm going to run it overnight. I'm also going to throw this in. This is a piece of brass that I use as a counterweight, and anytime I need something I can beat on. So it's got that typical sort of dirty brass finish on there. I'm going to throw that in and see if that cleans up the brass at all, just to see if that makes a difference. So I'm going to reload this and run it overnight, and we'll come back tomorrow morning and see what it looks like. So here we are after 13 hours of runtime on our bead blasted aluminum plate. I took the bolts out of those two threaded holes, so you can see the difference in surface finish here and on here, where the bolt head was covering the bead blasted and protected it from the medium. So you can see there is a little bit of a difference in the bead blasted surface, but for the most part, it hasn't really touched it, and it's certainly not a fully polished finish like we were expecting to get. When we look at the rest of the parts we threw in, we find that overnight runtime really didn't do anything else to the other aluminum parts. It didn't touch the machining marks on the face milled aluminum, and it didn't do any appreciable change to the extruded aluminum. The brass, though, that was quite the success. You can see that it shined the brass up really very nicely. It's gone from being all dingy and tarnished to fully polished. So it seems that this impregnated jeweler's rouge is really good at doing brass, but it doesn't touch aluminum at all. The oxide layer on it is probably just too hard. So with that being the case, we're still on the hunt for a vibratory polishing medium that will work on aluminum. That's it for today. Thanks for watching.
Stop it, please. Don't hit me. Please. Don't hit me.
Come on, man, quit that.